being filmed for a special YouTube channel that I guess we have. So, boy, it's pretty cool, pretty neat that we're having this kind of exposure. Anyways, so the session today is going to be dealing with Shakespeare's tragedy Antony and Cleopatra. The first thing I'd like to think about this play is the fact that it was brought before this what they call the Stationers' Register, kind of a copyright clearinghouse or a permission agency to publish various literature in England. And both Antony and Cleopatra and the play we talked about last week, Pericles, also was registered at this Stationers' Registry the same year, 1608. So we can sort of tell that both of these plays had been written before this time. It's kind of interesting to, compare these two pieces because in a sense, that there are some, similarities. We remember about Pericles, how it was structured very differently than a lot of Shakespeare's other plays, that it's this play that's, written on kind of an epic scale, and that this Prince of Tyre, Pericles, we see his travels and adventures to all these different places around Asia Minor and the northern part of Africa, and he goes on all these different adventures. Not really what I call a well-made play, but just this kind of picaresque series of adventures. It's it's a very different kind of literary narration than most of Shakespeare's other plays. Cleopatra, Antony and Cleopatra, is written on a similar kind of epic scale. It deals with the lives and loves of these two title characters, and it takes place in a number of different areas. It takes place partially in Egypt, sort of around Alexandria, that area of Egypt. It also takes place in Rome, the seat of the Roman triumvirate, the Roman Republic, and it also takes place in Asia Minor. There are various kingdoms in Asia Minor in which there are wars and battles, in which the Romans hope to maintain hegemony and rule over some of these kingdoms in Asia. This play goes all over the map, just like Pericles does. So it certainly doesn't obey the unities. Aristotle talked about the unities of time and of place and subject. Well, these two plays certainly don't obey those unities of place, certainly. And it certainly doesn't, certainly this, Pericles and Antony certainly don't obey the unities of time. I think we found that over the course of the play in Pericles, it took place at least over a course of 14 years, probably more like 15 or 16 years with all these adventures that he had. That's a pretty wide time frame for a single play. Antony and Cleopatra, I think if you look at the real history, you would say that it also has a very wide time frame. If you take all these events in the play literally, it would have to take place at least over a period of 10 years. So that's a pretty epic scale in terms of time. Now, another thing about the play that's also epic, and I think even more so Antony and Cleopatra, is the notion of the number of individual scenes that are in the play. If you take a look at some of the other plays we've we've looked at in this class. Hamlet, for example. It's Shakespeare's probably longest play, and it has a total of 19 distinct scenes in the play. I won't even talk about acts, because Shakespeare really didn't organize his plays in acts. That is later editors providing the 5-act structure that we know about Shakespeare's plays today. But individual scenes, Hamlet had 19 scenes, and that was kind of a par for the course, pretty average kind of thing. Timon of Athens, that play has 15 scenes, and then afterwards we start getting in his mature tragedies slightly more number of individual scenes. King Lear has 25 scenes. Macbeth has 27 scenes. Coriolanus, 29 scenes. Pericles, 22. The Tempest really winnows it down. Tempest really strips things down to its essentials. The Tempest has only 9 separate scenes in the entire play, which I think is probably a minimalist record for a Shakespeare play. But Antony and Cleopatra, believe it or not, the script lists 42 scenes in the play. Almost double what was the par for the course in Shakespeare's other plays. 42 scenes. That seems more like a screenplay than a theatrical play. It almost sounds like that Shakespeare was writing for the movies, because there are times when you take a look at this play, this film of Antony and Cleopatra, it almost seems like that he's almost envisioning sudden cuts from one scene to another, and that's the way they try to perform it in this film. They try to leave almost no breathing space between some of these scenes in the play. One just rolls right into the next one with barely any transition whatever. So this really, to me, is Shakespeare working in a very experimental way, a different mode of playwriting. It's like he's really trying to put the entire world on the stage. And of course, this is a challenging thing to do when you have a stage in the Elizabethan theater that was basically a bare stage. How do you portray the entire civilized world on this bare stage and make people believe it? Well, he does it through his language. He really uses the spoken word to lay the scene for people, and that was one of his great geniuses as a playwright, to use his special dramatic poetic language to truly give you a sense of time and of place. So this is a play quite unlike most of his other dramatic works. It truly does give you a sense of really being truly immersed in the stress and strain and tumult of history. But it's really interesting. This play, it's not just a tragedy, and it's not just a history. I would say that most people, when they hear the title Antony and Cleopatra, really would think of this play as a romance. In a sense, a romance, sort of like on the same order as Romeo and Juliet, our play next week, is considered this great romantic play, this great story of this love affair between these two teenagers. Antony and Cleopatra, it's kind of in the same mode, but it's not a tale of young love. It's really a tale of kind of like middle-aged or mature love. What if Romeo and Juliet had lived? Maybe they would have become a couple like Antony and Cleopatra in middle age. So it's a very unusual subject matter. We sometimes hear the notion that, the happiest married couple in Shakespeare's works is Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Well, we were sort of put back on our heels when someone says that. But I think that in terms of couples, married or not, perhaps Antony and Cleopatra may be the most, I don't know about happy, but most passionate couple in Shakespeare's plays, Romeo and Juliet excluded perhaps. But, it's really interesting. It's a very kind of exterior view we have of this couple, whereas there are some marvelous moments in Romeo and Juliet where we just see that couple alone, speaking their love language together, especially in that immortal balcony scene. Intimate moments like that in Antony and Cleopatra are relatively rare, almost non-existent. We basically see these people, this man and this woman, basically we see them through the eyes of others. We hear other people talking about them and their relationship. And when we see them together on stage, generally we see them as people surrounded by others, whether it's Antony's soldiers that he leads, or his right-hand man, Barbas, or perhaps Cleopatra's handmaidens, priestesses, other governmental, underlings, eunuchs in her court. We see all these other people around them when they're enmeshed in some, interpersonal, conversation or quarrel or what have you. But you very rarely see these people alone. And it makes you wonder, and it's made critics wonder for hundreds of years, how much of this is just theater? How much of this is just for show, just to give the people looking on, an impression of what their relationship is? Are they just playing the roles of lovers? Or is this a real love match? And just, parenthetically speaking, people in this age, whether it's in ancient Rome and ancient Egypt, or whether it's in the time of, Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I and King James I, people generally did not marry for love at that time. People generally made alliances, matrimonial alliances, or carried on love affairs as political moves, as a way of creating alliances between different states or different countries, ways of providing a sense of a compromise between warring factions. This was not necessarily a romantic act. Oftentimes it was a very practical, very much a strategic act. And I think I see a hand. Linda, you had a comment?
Well, I just was thinking it was almost it was a passionate relationship, I think, but it was sort of politically motivated because she definitely had a goal in mind.
Okay.
Have Egypt be a joint partner with Rome ruling in the world.
And to maintain somewhat of her own independence as a ruler of Egypt. Another thing, I'm getting even more parenthetical. They're not shown in the play, but Cleopatra had children. She had some children with Julius Caesar, who this is after this play is really a sequel to Julius Caesar, by the way. You really could read
Sure.
these two plays in succession, and it would make sense as a kind of a unit in a way. This is really like Julius Caesar Part 2, except Julius Caesar is now gone, long gone, assassinated in the Roman Forum. But Cleopatra had an affair with Julius Caesar. I think she had an affair with another member of the triumvirate with Julius Caesar, Pompey, and she had at least 2 children with Mark Antony. She got around, she made some really major alliances with these mighty men of Rome. And the question is to us, our theater goers, again, how much of this is a real love relationship? And when you hear people talking in the play about these two people, and everyone in the play outside of this love relationship is speculating on the nature of the relationship. So let me just read a little bit from this first scene. There are 2 characters who open the play, and by the way, these lines are cut from the Stratford film of Antony and Cleopatra. So there's a character named Philo, and there's a character named Demetrius. These are 2 soldiers, 2 Roman soldiers, and they're talking about these 2 title characters, and they're they're not very happy with the way Antony is behaving with her. They really feel that it is unbecoming a Roman general to behave with this Egyptian queen in this way. So this is Philo, the opening lines of the play. So Philo says, "Nay, but this dotage of our generals overflows the measure. Those his goodly eyes that o'er the files and musters of the war have glowed like plated Mars, now bend, now turn the office and devotion of their view upon a tawny front." And tawny refers to the dark-hued complexion of Cleopatra. "His captain's heart, which in the scuffles of great fights hath burst the buckles on his breast, reneges all temper and is become the bellows and the fan to cool a gypsy's lust." Oh, gypsy's lust. Bad news. And by the way, I didn't realize it, that, at least this particular editor suggests that the gypsies were thought to have come from Egypt, and their name is a shortened form of Egyptian. Could this be? I don't know, but it's a great theory anyway. So, and then Philo, asks Demetrius to watch. "Take but good note, and you shall see in him the triple pillar of the world transformed into a strumpet's fool. Behold and see." So this Philo calls Antony a strumpet's fool. Strumpet, of course, being another name for a prostitute. Basically thinking that again, Antony is the sort of the tool, the sort of the guy able to be manipulated by this, basically a royal whore. Not a pretty picture that Philo paints. And then we see this very brief scene between Antony and Cleopatra. And it really does seem that Antony has truly thrown his lot all in with this Egyptian world of Cleopatra, that he has basically gone native, as they say. He's basically taken in this exotic, colorful Egyptian civilization, and the way Shakespeare portrays it, it's almost as if he's come to the realization that this Roman culture is so very proper and correct and cold and unemotional, And then he finds himself in this, sort of this Asian subculture of Egypt that suddenly is full of all this life and vim and vigor and passion and people not trying to stay within the lines, coloring within the lines of the coloring book. These people have this kind of free and easy way of living that really appeals to him. And you really get that sense of Antony really wanting to be Egyptian in this opening scene. So Cleopatra says to him, "If it be love indeed, tell me how much." And again, there are all sorts of people in her court that are around during this scene. And it's like they are playing a theatrical scene. "If it is love indeed, tell me how much." And Antony replies, "There's beggary in the love that can be reckoned." You can't measure love, Antony's saying. And Cleopatra says, I'll set a boundary, I'll set a bourne how far to be beloved. And Antony, phrase maker that he is, he says, "Then must thou needs find out new heaven, new earth." So basically saying there are no bounds to my love. Oh, I see a hand. Susan, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes, so a couple of questions. So is that sometimes when they talk about this play, they talk about East versus West. So that's what you're talking about is just now was sort of that dichotomy, the East versus West?
Yeah, I think you've really hit the nail on the head. Yes. So you hear a lot of talk about in modern cultural studies. We hear about Orientalism, the appeal of the East, the appeal of the exoticism of, say, Egypt and the Middle East and India and China and Japan. There seems to be this great allure to that kind of, visual art and that kind of way of living that is non-Western, a different outlook on life. The religion has a very different outlook on life compared with the Western religions. It's a different bag, and Antony really does seem to be drawn in by that in this play, and certainly in this opening scene. And so there is this sense that he's captivated by the culture, and he's captivated by the woman. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and one other question. So you were talking about how they never seem to be alone, and maybe that there's sort of a performance for these other people in the room. And I was wondering, as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, maybe this is sort of a Cleopatra's way to sort of control the situation. That most of the time when they're together, aren't they in front of? It's at her place, right? So she's trying to prove her control of him, and by kind of manipulating the situation, you think?
Yeah, I think she's trying to show her court that she's the one who wears the pants in this relationship. And there's a lot of that kind of talk, this kind of gender twisting about in this play. The emperor, not emperor yet, but Octavian, who will become later on Augustus Caesar. Octavian, or Octavius, he talks about, in a later scene, he talks about Antony being kind of less than a man in this relationship with Cleopatra, and that's one of the things that bothers him about this relationship. Let me see if I can find this little because it's really quite stunning the way he badmouths Antony in this. Golly, yeah. Let me read a little of this. Yeah. So he says to one of his other members of the triumvirate, Lepidus, Caesar says, "You may see Lepidus, and henceforth know it is not Caesar's natural vice to hate our great competitor," meaning Antony. "From Alexandria, this is the news. He fishes, drinks, and wastes the lamps of night in revel. Is not more manlike than Cleopatra, nor the queen of Ptolemy more womanly than he." So basically saying that Antony's acting like a woman. Cleopatra is acting like a man. And I think sometimes in this production, this film, sometimes we actually see Antony dressed up more like you would expect a woman of the time to dress. And it's part of Cleopatra and Antony's love play, in a way, to make these kind of ambiguous genderings in their appearances together. It's really kind of unusual. And it's like that in Rome, you would not feel the freedom to do that kind of gender bending that you find in this court in Egypt. It's in Egypt where Antony really is allowed to let his inner feminine side outside, in a way, and he seems to kind of get a little thrill out of that. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. And I had another question. It seemed like in the production that they cast what looked like a younger woman compared to Antony's older person. So was that the way they were? Was she younger than him?
Yeah, in history, I would say that she was perhaps at least 13 or 14 years younger than Antony. Let me see. There's a little timeline in my script. It says that Antony was born 83 BC. Oh, and birth of Cleopatra 69 BC. Okay, so yeah, about 14 years age difference. In today's world, I don't think we would bat an eyelash about that. But yeah, there's definitely a difference in age. Of course, back in ancient times, if you were 30, you were probably considered middle-aged at that point. So let's say that let's just say this is a mature relationship. We'll just leave it at that. It's certainly not like Romeo and Juliet, where Juliet's maybe 14 years old. It's not that kind of real young relationship. So this is a slightly different stage in people's.
Was that he was like 53 and she was like 39, something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm not so this probably would have been in the BC 30s that they were in this relationship. So she would have been in her 30s, I'd say. That makes sense in the context of the play. And so probably Antony would be in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, maybe. Let's say late 40s for Antony. So anyways, anyhow, let's get back to this. Yeah, yes.
We're talking about characteristics and how she was more of a warrior. I had read something that said she was not even Egyptian. She was actually Macedonian.
Yes.
And that would lead to the wars between Greece and Macedonia, the internal Greek wars.
Right.
And she was all about power and staying on top, and did not understand the honor that the Roman culture embodied. Okay, you may be true, may be right about that cultural difference. So she was supposedly the last ruler in this Egyptian dynasty called the Ptolemaic dynasty, spelled Ptolemaic, Ptolemaic, and this descends from Ptolemy the First, who was a general under
Alexander the Great, and that he was given this kingdom to rule by, I guess, by Alexander, or maybe after Alexander's death, he became ruler of Egypt. And so Cleopatra is kind of descended from this, again, this Macedonian general. And her name, according to Wikipedia, comes from the Greek words kleos and pate, glory and father. So literally means Cleopatra, the glory of her father. Mm-hmm. So it's a Greek name, not an Egyptian name at all. And supposedly, according to this article, supposedly Cleopatra was the only ruler of this Ptolemaic dynasty, this dynasty that descends from the Greeks, that actually spoke Egyptian. So, in a way, Cleopatra is kind of an indulger in this Orientalism as well. She's coming from this, in a sense, a European cultural ancestry, and she is her family at least, and she is trying to acculturate herself to the Egyptian way of things as well. And again, she spoke the Egyptian language, and she obviously tried to really make her seem as much a native as any truly native-born person. Let's see, Mr. Wagner, yes.
In another era, don't forget Moses, he of the Ten Commandments, had an Egyptian name. Moses is an Egyptian name.
That's true.
Discovered floating in the bulrushes.
Yes, and the name, I think, vaguely means something like he who was taken from the water, something like that. He who was rescued from the water. Yeah. I think there's something linked to that name. But yes, it is of Egyptian origin. Mary Lou, yes.
According to Google notes last night, Cleopatra spoke about 12 different languages.
Wow, my goodness. So this was a very sophisticated person. This was someone who was very educated and very cosmopolitan. Wow, that's pretty astonishing. Wow, very cool. So let's see. Let me get back to this first encounter we have with Antony and Cleopatra. So and then a messenger comes in, news, my lord, from Rome, and Antony says, "Grates me, the sun." So he's annoyed by this interruption from Rome, because that's taking his attention away from this great Egyptian world of his. He doesn't want to be reminded of Rome. And so Cleopatra says, "Nay, hear him, Antony. Fulvia perchance is angry." Fulvia is Antony's wife. He's having a little something on the side here. "Fulvia perchance is angry," she says. "Or who knows if the scarce bearded Caesar have not sent his powerful mandate to you. Do this or that. Take in that kingdom and enfranchise that. Perform it, or else we damn thee." This Octavian Caesar, he was Octavius Caesar, I'm sorry. He was only maybe in his early 20s when this action is going on. He's considered the baby, the runt of this triumvirate litter. And I don't think people really take him all that seriously. He doesn't have seniority, but he's really, trying to use his muscle to show that he matters. And that's what Cleopatra is making fun at. And she says, "You must not," she says, maybe ironically, "you must not stay here longer. Your dismission has come from Caesar. Therefore hear it, Antony. Where's Fulvia's process? Caesar's, I would say, both. Call in the messengers. As I am Egypt's queen, thou blushest, Antony, and that blood of thine is Caesar's homage. Else, so thy cheek pay shame, when shrill-tongued Fulvia scolds the messengers. And then Antony has one of the most beautiful speeches in the play, in which he gives, what may well be his real feelings. He says, "Let Rome in Tiber melt, and the wide arch of the ranged empire fall. Here is my space. Kingdoms are clay. Our dungy earth alike feeds beast as man. The nobleness of life is to do thus." And the stage directions say embracing. I think they really kiss quite a bit in this scene in the movie. The nobleness of life is to do this. When such a mutual pair and such a twain can do it, in which I bind on pain of punishment, the world is weak. We stand up peerless. And Cleopatra, again, very ironically, saying, "Excellent falsehood. Why did he marry Fulvia and not love her? I'll seem the fool I am not. Antony will be himself." So she's sort of suggesting that, when he's away from me, he'll step out on me and love somebody else, just like he's stepping out on Fulvia. She's full of irony in this play. And Antony says, "But stirred by Cleopatra, now for the love of love," with a capital L, "now for the love of love and her soft hours. Let's not confound the time with conference harsh. There's not a minute of our lives should stretch without some pleasure now. What sport tonight?" And Cleopatra says, "Here are the ambassadors." And Antony's thinking, "What? You mean political business? No." And he replies, "Fie, wrangling queen, whom everything becomes, to chide, to laugh, to weep, whose every passion fully strives to make itself in thee fair and admired. No messenger but thine, and all alone, tonight we'll wander through the streets and note the qualities of people. Come, my queen, last night you did desire it. Speak not to us." He's talking to these officials in the court. And they exit. They go off for their little wanderings around the streets of Alexandria. So Antony, he's not all that keen to be in his role as general or as politician. He really wants to be Antony, the lover, the consort of this great queen. So, and at the end of this scene, I mean, like a little parentheses, again, one of these soldiers gives the final lines of the scene. He says, "I am full sorry that he approves the common liar," meaning proves the lie, that he approves the common liar, who thus speaks of him at Rome. But I will hope of better deeds tomorrow. Rest you happy. And the two soldiers exit. So right at the top of the play, of course, they cut out those soldiers in this production. Right at the top of the play, Shakespeare is showing Antony and Cleopatra being talked about by others. Yeah. And he's starting the play with having the audience being put in the same frame as these cynical Romans, talking about, is this the way for a great third of this triumvirate to behave? Our lives, this great Roman world is depending on Antony, and he's letting down the home team by totally squandering his talents as a politician and as a general, and really being under the thumb of this Egyptian queen, who is really no better than a strumpet. Shakespeare starts out by having the audience view Cleopatra and Antony from this point of view. So, some of you maybe have not seen the play yet. Some of you have. But I'd like to just put this question to you now, before we go any further. Do you believe that Cleopatra is in love with Mark Antony? So that's part one of the question. Part two is, do you think Antony, in his heart of hearts, is in love with Cleopatra? And maybe part three, is it a truly mutual love? Is it truly something that is truly a love match in a way? Or are they simply play acting before this court? Are they simply going through the motions of being this great, charismatic, romantic couple, like a bunch of Hollywood actors, they set up couples in Hollywood back in the golden age, where, they wanted to make the public believe that this one was in love with that one. It sold movie magazines, it sold tickets at the movie theaters. But were they really in love? We're really not sure. It's a similar kind of thing with this ancient world of Rome and Egypt. So if any of you want to unmute yourselves and offer your thoughts on this question, I'd be very curious to hear your opinion. Jim, I see your hand up.
It depends upon the definition of the word love.
Okay, well, that's very true. That's very true. So how would you define it? And if so, do you think this couple merits that adjective or that definition?
I suppose if one person were really, really poor and the other person were really, really rich and decided that they loved the other person, then I would say the answer is yes.
Okay. So there is a certain amount of perhaps pecuniary self-interest, perhaps, or self-interest in various other ways. So it's love, but it's with a certain amount of motive that's not maybe pure, purely of the romantic spirit, you would say. Am I putting it okay?
I think that I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on this subject? Okay, Ruth, yes.
I had the feeling, now this might sound a little sexist, but I had the feeling that he was besotted with her. He had never met anybody quite like her. I don't know anything about his wife, but that's the impression I got with the way he acted. He really went over the top and really seemed to be into it. Whereas she, speaking 12 languages and being the queen and having all these other great men who were also lovers, I'm not so sure about her. I think she did love him, but not the way he loved her. I think it was a different kind of, she had motives.
Okay. One of the motives, I think, was looking out for her children,
Yes.
I think she was concerned about this son she had with Julius Caesar, that he would have a certain amount of political sway when he grew up, and I think about the children she would have with Mark Antony as well. Linda, I see your hand up.
I don't think she expected, when she had her affair with Julius Caesar, she certainly didn't expect him to die as he did. And they had Caesarion, who was their son, and I had hopes for him to become the next ruler of Rome. Mm-hmm. And I think she definitely, I'm agreeing with everybody who thinks that she was very motivated by power. I don't know that money was such a big deal. I'm not sure she was very rich, and I think Antony wasn't exactly poor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think he was, for the reasons you said, I think he was attracted to the lifestyle. It was something different from Rome. And she had an interest in the power for herself and then for her children.
Okay. I saw this lovely little documentary that was part of this series I've checked out of the library called Shakespeare Uncovered, in which great actors and directors and others host a look at a particular Shakespeare play in each program, and they get the best, scholars and theater workers and actors to talk about these plays and talk about what they're about and what makes them interesting to a modern day audience, and how do we perform them, and how should we look at these characters. And in the program I saw yesterday, Kim Cattrall, the actress who appeared on Sex and the City, was the host, and she has played this role of Cleopatra, and she wanted to really delve into this world of this play in this episode. And she spoke with a number of other interpreters of the role. And one of the people she spoke with was Vanessa Redgrave. And Redgrave had the really interesting theory about Mark Antony. And she said that she believed that Mark Antony really did not love Cleopatra. Basically, her view was that Mark Antony simply loved the fact that he could have the top woman of the world. And she very well may have been the top woman of the world at that time.
So she was his trophy?
She was like his trophy. Yeah, you take the words right out of my mouth. Absolutely. I mean, you hear about trophy wives. Well, boy, who could ask for a more impressive trophy than Cleopatra? Anyway, that's the way Redgrave felt about this, and that's the way I don't know if her scene partner and her production played it that way, but that's what she believes about this relationship. So it's definitely not a real romantic look at these people from her point of view. Now, does anyone else want to weigh in on this? I see Gail's hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess I thought he was really in love with her, but now that you're saying that, I sort of have a different perspective. But I did read that about Flavia, his wife, that she was actually a very powerful person in Rome, and
Yes.
she came from a powerful family. So that's kind of interesting in that what you're saying about Cleopatra. So he did have another person in his life who was a powerful woman. So I guess it was important to him. Although, I'm sure the marriage with Flavia was probably an arranged marriage, but she also was a powerful woman in her own right.
I really think that in this, sort of power class, the upper class of this time, into the medieval and into the Renaissance, I really think most of these marriages of this class were arranged, and they definitely were strategically arranged. I'd say the love matches were in the great minority. And your sense about this being a true great love feeling on Antony, of Antony's part toward Cleopatra, I think a lot of it depends on the actor playing the part. And I think in this Stratford production, this actor, Geraint Wyn Davies, I think he tries to play him as a dashing romantic figure. And whatever his intentions, that's the way it comes across to me in his performance. So a different actor, having a different point of view will give you a different impression. I think I saw Karen's hand up.
Yes, I was thinking that the opening scenes of the play really were also filled with lust, so one wonders if Antony was in lust as much as he was in love.
Well,
because there were verbal references and then even physical references in the staging where he demonstrated that he was quite proud of his parts and his performance.
Yes.
And so, this is a kind of sense of renewal in middle age, perhaps for both of them, because there was even a joke about Cleopatra, and the 30 was spouted out and she was taken aback. But, so for both of them, it was perhaps a renewal of their sexual identity. And then that being more free in Orientalism than what perhaps Antony had experienced with his wife, who was clearly beloved of him, but not that same kind of fire that he was feeling in this relationship.
Yeah, later on in the play, well, first of all, we find out that Fulvia has died, and through various other complications, the fact that Fulvia and I think one of her brothers has been making war on Octavius, that Mark Antony feels that he needs to go back to Rome to settle up family affairs and also to try to patch up the bad blood that Fulvia and her brother has incurred on the part of Octavius. And as part of the kind of peacemaking between Antony and Octavius, the suggestion is made that, well, now that you're a widower, I think there might be a good match to be made between you and Octavius's sister, Octavia. I mean, talk about a set-up marriage. Talk about a marriage of political convenience and strategy. Well, this is one in spades, and Antony seems very agreeable to do this, because he feels that there has to be a way that I can make up to Octavius all the bad blood incurred by my wife. And supposedly, according to him, the motive power why she started causing all this ruckus was because Antony was spending his days, canoodling with Cleopatra in Egypt, and she wanted to get his attention, And now he definitely has his attention, because his wife, his late wife, really made a mess of it. So he agrees to marry this Octavia. And another character, I think it might be Enobarbus, Enobarbus is the major, I don't know, he's sort of Antony's right-hand man, but he's also the major, I don't know, commentator on the relationship between Antony and Cleopatra. And he's oftentimes, he's sort of like a fool in many of other Shakespeare plays. He's allowed to be the designated truth teller in a way. He's allowed to be totally candid, and he's not going to get smacked for it. Would that a certain other chief executive would have a fool like Enobarbus to serve that capacity, but and never you mind. But Enobarbus says in one of these scenes that there's no way that Olympia is going to be enough for Antony, because she's a basically proper, fairly cold person. She does not have the kind of exotic sensuality of a Cleopatra. And there's just no way that Antony will be able to keep himself away from Egypt for long. Enobarbus is being very realistic about the way things stand. And sure enough, Antony, at a certain point, realizes that his passions lie in Egypt. He says that very directly in the play. And as soon as he has an excuse to get away from Rome, he does. So it's again, these things are very much these marriages. They're very much politically motivated, quite often in this period. Now I've spoken how so many of these Shakespeare plays often have their roots in other literature, whether it's older fiction or history books. This play obviously has its roots in history. Now, I think you might remember with Timon of Athens and with Coriolanus that there was one particular source that Shakespeare used for those plays, and it's that same source that he uses for the most part for Antony and Cleopatra. Does anyone know which ancient writer I'm referring to?
Plutarch?
Plutarch, yes. Who said that?
Me?
Oh, okay, okay.
Linda?
Good for you, good for you. Yes, so Plutarch wrote these studies of, great ancient lives. Let me see if I have the exact title. Sorry.
Famous lives of Greeks and Romans.
Yeah, so it's simply called Plutarch's Lives. It's a pretty thick tome that looks at biographies of a lot of great figures of the ancient world, such as Antony, Cicero, Demosthenes, Crassus, Lucullus, Pyrrhus. So you've heard of Pyrrhic victory. Well, there's Pyrrhus, Marcus Brutus, all sorts of great figures. And there's, supposedly the longest biographical study is the one he made about Mark Antony. So this was certainly a very crucial personage. And Shakespeare, I'd say more than maybe any other of his plays, he takes passages from Plutarch's Lives almost lock, stock, and barrel, and he inserts them into this play. And it's really interesting. You can really get a sense of how Shakespeare's poetic mind works by the way he adapts these passages, these paragraphs of Plutarch into his beautiful dramatic poetry. So let me read this passage from Plutarch's Lives, in which he describes this great barge that Cleopatra appears on. It's in a place called Cydnus, Cydnus, which I think is a region in Asia Minor, one of these Asia Minor kingdoms that Antony had some interest in, and so Cleopatra makes this grand appearance on this barge, and this is where Antony really first lays eyes on her, and obviously this public appearance was planned to the nth degree to make Cleopatra seem like the most glamorous, absolute, the greatest star in the Near East, in this public appearance. This is the way, and this is an English writer named North who does the translation of this passage by Plutarch. So he writes that of the royal barge, the poop whereof was gold, the sails of purple, and the oars of silver, which kept stroke in rowing after the sound of the music of flutes, oboes, citherns, viols, and other such instruments. And now for the person of herself, she was laid under a pavilion of cloth, of gold of tissue, apparelled and attired like the goddess Venus, commonly drawn in picture. And hard by her, on either side of her, pretty fair boys, apparelled as painters do set forth God Cupid, with little fans in their hands, with the which they fanned wind upon her. Her ladies and gentlewomen also, the fairest of them were apparelled like the nymphs Nereides, which are the mermaids of the waters, and like the Graces, some steering the helm, others tending the tackle and robes of the barge, out of the which there came a wonderful passing sweet savor of perfumes that perfumed the wharf's side. Okay, so that's this North translation of Plutarch. Now here is that same scene as described by Enobarbus talking to some of his fellow Roman soldiers. And this is the way he transmutes that description in Shakespeare's blank verse. The barge she sat on, like a burnished throne, burned on the water. The poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, and so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them. The oars were silver, which to the tune of flutes kept stroke and made the water which they beat to follow faster, as amorous of their strokes. For her own person, it beggared all description. She did lie in her pavilion, cloth of gold of tissue, or picturing that Venus where we see the fancy outwork nature. On each side her stood pretty dimpled boys, like smiling cupids, with diverse colored fans, whose wind did seem to glow the delicate cheeks which they did cool, and what they did and what they undid did. Her gentlewomen, like the Nereides, so many mermaids tended her in the eyes, and made their bends adorings. At the helm, a seeming mermaid steers. The silken tackle swell with the touches of those flower-soft hands that yearly frame the office. From the barge, a strange invisible perfume hits the sense of the adjacent wharfs. So that's Shakespeare's translation of Plutarch's Lives. It's a lot of the same words, but the way he frames them has a very distinct Shakespearean quality. Talking about the barge, for example, like a burnished throne. I mean, that is such a great image, that and burnished throne that burned on the water. I mean, that repetition of the burr sound, that's poetry, folks. And the notion that the purple the sails, and so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them. To think that the ideas of winds that could be lovesick. Shakespeare is totally eroticizing. He's supercharging the eroticism in this passage. And even though you're watching an Elizabethan bare stage, when you hear those words of Enobarbus, suddenly you can see the picture just through the words. There is that gloriously extravagant film, Cleopatra, that was made in the early 60s. And who better to play this incredible display of romantic celebrity, Antony and Cleopatra? Who better to play those roles than Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor? Burton, who fell head over heels with Elizabeth Taylor while they were making the film. I mean, could there be any greater poetic justice than that? In that film, which was probably the most expensive film made up to that point, boy, they showed that scene, that barge on the Cydnus. And boy, it's that old saying of, maybe it was Louis B. Mayer, that movie looked like what God would provide if he only had the money. Well, they had the money for this scene, and you could see it broke the bank. They had the thousands of extras, and boy, they made Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra look as glamorous, as, angelically, as like the greatest, siren of the Western world, or Eastern world for that matter, that the world had ever seen. How could Richard Burton not fall in love with that woman? No one could not fall in love with that woman. But Joseph Mankiewicz, the director, he had gobs of money, and he had gobs of costume designers and set decorators and Technicolor photographers and great cinematic music, all that at his disposal to create that effect. Shakespeare only had words. And some people would say that the greatest impact comes with those words on a bare stage at the Globe Theater. So never underestimate the power of these Shakespearean languages. Now when Enobarbus, gives that speech about Cleopatra, he's, and this is at a time when they're saying about, well, how he can't possibly go back to Cleopatra after getting married to this Olympia, this sister of the emperor. Enobarbus knows better. He has seen the appeal of Cleopatra, and he recognizes that Antony can't possibly have the self-discipline to possibly tear himself away from that. Let me just see if I can find this speech. Oh, darn it. Sorry, I didn't bookmark myself as well. Yeah. So this is what he has to say. So the character Maecenas says, now Antony must leave Cleopatra utterly, and Enobarbus says, never. He will not. Enobarbus knows from where he speaks. And then the famous words, age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety. Other women cloy the appetites they feed, but she makes hungry where most she satisfies. For vilest things become themselves in her, that the holy priests bless her when she is riggish. And Maecenas again demurs, if beauty, wisdom, modesty can settle the heart of Antony, Octavia is a blessed lottery to him. And I guess Enobarbus just agrees to disagree. But Enobarbus is right. He knows from where he speaks, and sure enough, Antony finds that he cannot stay apart from Cleopatra for long. Now, for those of you who feel that Antony does not really love Cleopatra, I'd like to try finding this passage in which this is later on in the play. This is in Act 4, in which Antony has suffered possibly the most horrendous military defeat of his career. And in a sense, he almost blames Cleopatra, because Cleopatra has joined her forces with him, and she has sort of gotten cold feet in this battle on the water, and she's turned herself and her battleships away from the battle, and Antony felt the necessity to follow her, and consequently the rest of the Roman battleships were left stranded, and they suffered this ignominious defeat. So let me take a look at this passage. So this is Act 4, Scene 14, and he's really Antony's really on the ropes. He's really, I don't know if he's been drinking. I think Antony does have an alcohol problem, by the way. And I think he's probably in his cups at this point. Let's hear Antony, talking about his state of mind. And he's speaking with someone named Eros. Eros means love. This is one of his underlings, but it's like he's having a dialogue with the goddess of love, Eros, or god of love. So he says, my good knave Eros, now thy captain is even such a body. Here I am, Antony, yet cannot hold this visible shape, my knave. I made these wars for Egypt and the queen, whose heart I thought I had, for she had mine, which, whilst it was mine, had annexed unto it 1,000,000 more, now lost. She, Eros, has packed cards with Caesar, and false played my glory unto an enemy's triumph. Nay, weep not, gentle Eros. There is left to us ourselves to end ourselves. So Antony really is on the point of suicide. He says, unarm me, Eros. The long day's task is done. Antony wants to create a true Roman death, that he would, he would impale himself on his own sword. So he's trying to talk himself into doing this. The long day's task is done, and we must sleep. The sevenfold shield of Ajax cannot keep the battery from my heart. Oh, cleave my sides. Heart, once stronger than thy continent, crack thy frail case. Apace, Eros, apace. No more a soldier, bruised pieces, go. You have been nobly born from me a while. I will o'ertake thee, Cleopatra, and weep for my pardon. So basically, Cleopatra has, in her whimsy, in her moodiness, she has sent a messenger to say that she is going to kill herself. And she's given this false message just to see how Antony reacts. Well, Antony takes it like a ton of bricks. And when he takes it in, he realizes that he has no other choice than to follow Cleopatra to the other side, to the other world. So he says, I will o'ertake thee, Cleopatra, and weep for my pardon. So it must be, for now all length is torture. Since the torch is out, lie down and stray no farther. Now all labor mars what it does, yea, very force entangles itself with strength. Seal then, all is done. Eros, I come, my queen. Eros, stay with me. Where souls do couch on flowers, we'll hand in hand, and with our sprightly port make the ghosts gaze. Dido and her Aeneas shall want troops, and all the haunt be ours. Come, Eros, Eros. Is he talking to his underling Eros or to the god Eros? He makes the comparison with Dido and Aeneas, this other legendary figure of Roman lore given in the poem The Aeneid by Virgil. And, whereas in the poem, The Aeneid, where this great love couple, this Dido and Aeneas deserts Dido so that he can help build up the city of Rome. He can help found the city of Rome. So for political reasons, they part, and Dido is heartbroken, and she decides she must end her life because she realizes there will be no love to compare with her love with Aeneas. So in a sense, this is kind of the reverse story of Dido and Aeneas. Here, Antony has deserted his great political future for this great love match with Cleopatra, and she realizes that suddenly, there is no Cleopatra anymore. He has to follow her to the afterlife, to the Elysian fields, and they will be united there. And he says, after Eros says, what would my lord? He says, since Cleopatra died, I have lived in such dishonor that the gods detest my baseness. I, with my sword, quartered the world, and o'er green Neptune's back with ships made cities, condemn myself to lack the courage of a woman, less noble mind than she, which by her death our Caesar tells, I am conqueror of myself. Thou art sworn, Eros, that when the exident shall come, which now is indeed come, when I should see behind me the inevitable prosecution of disgrace and horror, that on my command that thou wouldst kill me. Do it. The time is come. Thou strikest not me. 'Tis Caesar thou defeatest. So he's asking this soldier Eros to, stab him, to put him in this new life, this afterlife with Cleopatra, and Eros refuses. He kills himself instead, and it leaves Antony to do it himself. But although Antony gives it the good college try, he just can't manage to kill himself, And so in the course of the last act, or the end of the act, he's taken to Cleopatra's monument, where Cleopatra has immured herself. And unlike in Romeo and Juliet, there is a final parting of the two lovers as Antony, gives his final, words to Cleopatra. And it's a truly heartrending thing. Antony's final words are, "The miserable change now at my end," and he says to Cleopatra, "lament nor sorrow at, but please your thoughts in feeding them with those my former fortunes, wherein I lived the greatest prince of the world, the noblest, and do not now basely die, nor cowardly put off my helmet to my countrymen. A Roman by a Roman, valiantly vanquished. Now my spirit is going, I can no more." And he dies after that. Well, can there be nary a person in the audience without a tear in their eye hearing that speech? Certainly, Cleopatra is destroyed by that final parting. I think, I see Mary Lou has a comment. Yes.
I was going to say exactly. I do believe that he loved her, and he was enchanted perhaps by her and the culture. He certainly was in lust, as she was, but I do believe he loved her because of that very fact that he, against his normal Roman honor, he went and abandoned and followed her.
Yes.
And she likewise loved him. And so they, and the crux of it was both of their deaths.
Yes. So, it's really at this latter part of the play that we really get a chance to finally see these two unadorned by theatrical device or political motivation. We see them at their most primal and most basic, and we really get a sense that yes, there really is something about these two where they really do seem to be meant to be together. Whether in this world or the other world, they certainly are. They are. They must be together. There's no question about it. And we realize this defiantly in the final act, in which we see Cleopatra making her final departures. And because she realized that there is no life for her after Antony's death, she realizes that she's informed by some of the representatives of Octavius that he wants to parade her around in triumph around Asia Minor, suggesting that you must surrender to my political will, because I have your queen. I am the ruler presumptive of all Asia Minor, because Cleopatra is under my jurisdiction now. And she rebels against the notion of being that victimized figure. She does not want to give Octavius the victory of having her subservient to him. And so she decides she must, with her handmaidens or fellow priestesses of the goddess Isis, that she will do away with her life, and that her handmaidens will follow her in death as well. So I was going to play the final scene from this Stratford film, but I guess we really don't have any more time. But if you have not seen the film, I urge you to take a look at it, because it truly is I think, a magnificent final scene in which we see Cleopatra, played by Yana McIntosh, and her two attendants, namely Charmian, played by Sophia Walker, and Iris, played by Jennifer Mogbach, how they handle their final ablutions in a very, serious, ritualistic final departure. You know what really floors me about this final scene is that in the midst of this terribly solemn moment of self-sacrifice and suicide, that on comes this bearer of this basket containing this asp, this snake, in which Cleopatra is going to take out of the basket and affix this asp to take a chomp out of her breast and start this poison working in her system to her final demise. In Shakespeare's script, this bearer of this snake is called a clown, and in the midst of this solemn ritualistic suicide, Shakespeare injects this humorous, clownish character. Why does he do this? Why does Shakespeare spoil this serious moment with a clown? Well, he does this. He does this in Macbeth, when the King Duncan is murdered, and the whole household is woken up by this alarum bell saying the king is dead. Immediately before that, there is this drunken porter who is woken up out of his slumbers and who comes to answer this castle door, this loud knocking at the door, and he goes into this routine about all the many people who might be at the door, and he gives this big burlesque routine about knock knock, who's there, in the midst of that solemn moment in Macbeth. And of course, in Hamlet, there's the comic gravedigger who hands Hamlet the skull of Yorick, and he makes this big, if you could have a stand-up comic in a grave, that's who this would be. He does this whole routine about all these people who he's buried in this grave slot. Shakespeare is always putting these clowns in these serious moments, and this, it seems, sacrilege during this grand suicide at the end of Antony and Cleopatra. You would have this wisecracking clown. In this production, it's done as a Cockney clown, which seems even more inappropriate, to have someone being like someone in a British music hall doing a Cockney accent during this time. And it's like, Cleopatra is constantly dismissing him after delivering this basket, and he won't get off the stage. He's constantly coming back for more comments, and he just always has this crazy little sign-off phrase: "Have pleasure of the asp." This is going to be a fun thing to do, and he just won't leave the stage. Let me have my moment, clown. Get off the stage. It's the oddest thing in the world, but I think you need a little respite from this terrible sadness and tension of the final scene, and only a genius like Shakespeare would do something as crazy as that, I think. But do see this performance if you haven't already, and I think you'll be greatly moved. And again, I think you, along with Cleopatra, will be screaming at the screen, "Get off the stage, clown! Let's Cleopatra have her last moment." Anyway, take off your mutes in our final 5 or 10 minutes. If any of you would like to make comments about this production, I would be interested to hear your views. Many of you may have seen other productions of Cleopatra, and if so, I'd be interested in knowing, how you would rate this one compared with other renderings of this role and this production. So have any of you seen Cleopatra before? And if so, how does this stack up?
In Mankiewicz's film, we shamelessly saw it last night. We saw that Caesar ordered the burning of the Egyptian fleet, and that fire spread to the library of Alexandria. Was
Yes.
historically accurate?
So yeah, no, this takes place when Julius Caesar is still alive, and we also hear about that event in George Bernard Shaw's play Caesar and Cleopatra. So yes, that definitely was a side effect of that military endeavor, and it's one of the great cultural losses of Western civilization that library was lost. So that's an event that takes place before this play begins. Yes, Jim.
Yeah, just a comment. The death scene reminds me of a song. Love changes everything, how you live and how you die. I think
Okay.
love changed the way they died.
Yes. I think that in their final moments, they had no further, masks to wear, no further, agendas to pursue, and you finally see them in their final moments as they really are. Would that we saw them with the same clear eyes and hearts and minds at the beginning of the play. Might have been a different story. Any other comments on the piece that you wanted to bring to the floor?
Yeah, I read a review, and the fellow said that the actor who played Antony was the best that he's ever seen, even in London.
Wow.
And I thought he was outstanding. Didn't like Cleopatra's, the actress, as much until the very end. And he thought she was wonderful in the death scene. I liked her, but then I've never seen the play actually before. But I thought the Antony actor was marvelous. Really did.
Yeah. For so long, this play wasn't done. In the 19th century, say, you rarely saw production of this piece. People said it was unstageable, with these 40-odd scenes. They thought this is, again, not something that you can do in a realistic way on the stage. And the 19th century was a time when realism was in the theater. So it really waited for the 20th century till we had real great productions of this piece. And the part of Cleopatra is such a devilish role to play, because she's so changeable. She's so fickle. The script talks about her infinite variety. Kim Cattrall, when talking about the character, trying to play her, she says, sometimes Cleopatra changes her train of thought in the middle of a sentence. She's just so variable. It's so hard to keep up with her. You get a sense that her mind is racing. Someone who knows 12 languages, you can imagine the activity that's going on in that head of hers. And it's hard to maintain that kind of mental energy for a character like that. In the article, Wikipedia article about Antony and Cleopatra, it talks about some of the leading actors who have played these parts. For example, in 1951, Laurence Olivier and his wife, then Vivian Leigh, played Antony and Cleopatra. In 53, Michael Redgrave and Vanessa's father played Antony, and Peggy Ashcroft played Cleopatra. And in 1947, the role of Cleopatra was played on Broadway by Buffalo's own Katharine Cornell. And supposedly it was probably the longest running performance of Antony and Cleopatra on Broadway ever. Ran for 126 performances. And she won a Tony Award. I think it was probably the first Tony Award given for a dramatic portrayal. I think that was the first year for the Tonys. So yeah, Katharine Cornell really made that one of her signature roles. And other noted noted Cleopatras. There was a production in 1999 that was done at the Globe Theater, this reconstructed Globe Theater, done with an all-male cast. And in that production, the actor Mark Rylance played the role of Cleopatra. And this is a marvelous actor. I think he won an Oscar for his role in that Spielberg movie, The Bridge of Spies, I think it's called. And
Also
he also played a female role in the Globe's production of Twelfth Night, in which he played the role of Olivia in that production. So I can imagine it would have been a really interesting portrayal of that role in this piece as well. Let's see. Just maybe one or two other comments about this Stratford production before we call it quits. Oh yes, Karen.
The costuming is worth the price of admission. I fell under the swoon of Orientalism, clearly.
Beautiful.
Yes. I think that even though they used a pseudo Shakespeare Elizabethan stage, I think they really did try to really create a sense of authenticity in terms of their portrayal of Roman and Egyptian apparel. So from that point of view, it was a pretty traditional production in terms of trying to get a feel of Greek, Roman and Egyptian civilization. And the costumes really were primary in that effort. And maybe one more comment before we close. Anybody? All righty. Well, thank you very much for your attention. There's so much more we could talk about this play, and we'll just have to save it for another time. Next week, we'll be taking a look at another great romance, namely Romeo and Juliet. So as they say, that old song, we've looked at love from both sides now. This week, we've looked at it from the realm of mature, middle-aged love, and we'll be taking a look next week at youthful love. But it's still Shakespeare, so you'll hear some great poetry to make that subject universal and meaningful. So thanks again for your interest and attention, and look forward to meeting with you again on the subject of love next week. So thanks again.
Thank
and
Thank you.
we'll see you then. Bye-bye.